Sukarno was the first president of Indonesia, serving in office from 1945 to 1967. Sukarno was the leader of his country's struggle for independence from the Netherlands. He was a prominent leader of Indonesia's nationalist movement during the Dutch colonial period, and spent over a decade under Dutch detention until released by the invading Japanese forces. Sukarno and his fellow nationalists collaborated to garner support for the Japanese war effort from the population, in exchange for Japanese aid in spreading nationalist ideas. He led Indonesians in resisting Dutch recolonization efforts via diplomatic and military means until the Dutch acknowledgement of Indonesian independence in 1949. After a chaotic period of parliamentary democracy, Sukarno established an autocratic system called guided democracy in 1957 that successfully ended the instability and rebellions which were threatening the survival of the diverse and fractious country. The early 1960s saw Sukarno veering Indonesia to the left by providing support and protection to the Indonesian Communist Party at the expense of the military and Islamists. He also embarked on a series of aggressive foreign policies under the rubric of anti-imperialism, with aid from the Soviet Union and China. The 30th of September movement led to the destruction of the PKI and his replacement in 1967 by one of his generals, Suharto, and he remained under house arrest until his death. Name. The spelling Sukarno, based on Dutch orthography, is still frequently used, mainly because he signed his name in the old spelling. Sukarno himself insisted on a U, not O, but said that he had been told in school to use the Dutch style. He said that it was too difficult to change his signature, so still wrote it with the O. Official Indonesian presidential decrees from the period 1947 to 1968, however, printed his name using the 1947 spelling. The Soekarno-Hatta International Airport, which serves near Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, still uses the Dutch spelling. Indonesians also remember him as Bung Karno or Pak Karno. Like many Javanese people, he had only one name. He is sometimes referred to in foreign accounts as Ahmad Sukarno, or some variation thereof. The first name was reputedly added by a British journalist, who felt his readers would be confused over someone with just a single name. Background: the son of a Javanese primary school teacher, an aristocrat named Raden Sukami Sosradiharjo, and his Balinese wife from the Brahmin caste named Ida Ayu Nyoman Ray from Buleleng Regency. Sukarno was born at Jalan Pandinive, 40 Surabaya, East Java, in the Dutch East Indies. He was originally named Kusnoipa, KSN. Following Javanese custom, he was renamed after surviving a childhood illness. After graduating from a native primary school in 1912, he was sent to Europeische Lager School in Mojokit. When his father sent him to Surabaya in 1916 to attend a Hojra Burger school, he met Syekh Aminoto, a nationalist and founder of Sarekat Islam. In 1920, Sukarno married Syekh Aminoto's daughter Siti Itari. In 1921, he began to study at the Technische Hogeschool in Bandung. He studied civil engineering and focused on architecture. In Bandung, Sukarno became romantically involved with Inggit Garnasi, the wife of Sanosi, the owner of the boarding house where he lived as student. Inggit was 13 years older than Sukarno. On March 1923, Sukarno divorced Siti Itari to marry Inggit, and later on, Sukarno divorced Inggit also and married Fatmawati. Sukarno graduated with a degree in engineering on 25 May 1926. In July 1926, with his university friend Anwari, he established the architectural firm Sukarno and Anwari in Bandung, which provided planning and contractor services. Among Sukarno's architectural works are the renovated building of the Preenga Hotel, where he acted as assistant to famous Dutch architect Charles Prosper Wolff Schumacher. Sukarno also designed many private houses on today's Jalan Gatot Subroto, Jalan Palasari, and Jalan Dewi Sartika in Bandung. Later on, as president, Sukarno remained engaged in architecture, designing the Proclamation Monument and adjacent Gedung Pola in Jakarta, the Youth Monument in Semarang, the Alun-Alun Monument in Malang, the Heroes Monument in Surabaya, and also the new city of Palangkaraya in central Kalimantan. Atypically, even among the country's small educated elite, Sukarno was fluent in several languages. In addition to the Javanese language of his childhood, he was a master of Sundanese, Balinese and of Indonesian, and especially strong in Dutch. He was also quite comfortable in German, English, French, Arabic, and Japanese, all of which were taught at his HBS. He was helped by his photographic memory and precocious mind. In his studies, Sukarno was intensely modern, both in architecture and in politics. He despised both the traditional Javanese feudalism, which he considered as backward, and was to blame for the fall of the country under Dutch occupation and exploitation, and the imperialism practiced by Western countries, which he termed as exploitation of humans by other humans, and he blamed it for the deep poverty and low levels of education of Indonesian people under the Dutch. To promote nationalistic pride amongst Indonesian people, Sukarno interpreted these ideas in his dress, in his urban planning for the capital, and in his socialist politics. Though he did not extend his taste for modern art to pop music, he had Kos Bersaudara imprisoned for their allegedly decadent lyrics despite his own reputation for womanizing. For Sukarno, modernity was blind to race, neat and elegant in style, and anti-imperialist. Independence struggle. Sukarno was first exposed to nationalist ideas while living under Tjukro Aminoto. Later, while a student in Bandung, he immersed himself in European, American, nationalist, communist, and religious political philosophy, eventually developing his own political ideology of Indonesian-style socialist self-sufficiency. He began styling his ideas as Mahayanism, named after Mahan, an Indonesian peasant he met in southern Bandung area, who owned his little plot of land and worked on it himself, producing sufficient income to support his family. In university, Sukarno began organizing a study club for Indonesian students, the Algemeen Study Club, in opposition to the established student clubs dominated by Dutch students. On 4 July 1927, Sukarno with his friends from the Algemeen Study Club established a pro-independence party, Partai Nasional Indonesia, of which Sukarno was elected the first leader. The party advocated independence for Indonesia, and opposed imperialism and capitalism because it opined that both systems worsened the life of Indonesian people. The party also advocated secularism and unity amongst the many different ethnicities in the Dutch East Indies, to establish a united Indonesia. Sukarno also hoped that Japan would commence a war against the Western powers and that Java could then gain its independence with Japan's aid. Coming soon after the disintegration of Sarekat Islam in the early 1920s and the crushing of Partai Komunis Indonesia after their failed rebellion of 1926, PNI began to attract a large number of followers, particularly among the new university-educated youths eager for larger freedoms and opportunities denied to them in the racist and constrictive political system of Dutch colonialism. PNI activities came to the attention of the colonial government, and Sukarno's speeches and meetings was often infiltrated and disrupted by agents of the colonial secret police. Eventually, Sukarno and other key PNI leaders were arrested on 29 December 1929 by Dutch colonial authorities in a series of raids throughout Java. Sukarno himself was arrested while on a visit to Yogyakarta. During his trial at the Bandung Landrad courthouse from August to December 1930, Sukarno made a series of long political speeches attacking colonialism and imperialism, titled Indonesia Mengegate. On December 1930, Sukarno was sentenced to 4 years in prison, which were served in Sukamiskin prison in Bandung. His speech, however, received wide coverage by the press, and due to strong pressure from the liberal elements in both Netherlands and Dutch East Indies, Sukarno was released early on 31 December 1931. By this time, he had become a popular hero widely known throughout Indonesia. However, during his imprisonment, PNI had been splintered by oppression of colonial authorities and internal dissension. The original PNI was disbanded by the Dutch, and its former members formed two different parties, the Partai Indonesia under Sukarno's associate Sukarno, who were promoting massa agitation, and the Pendidikan Nasional Indonesia under Muhammad Hatta and Sartans Yahya, two nationalists who recently returned from studies in the Netherlands, and who were promoting a long-term strategy of providing modern education to the uneducated Indonesian populace to develop an intellectual elite able to offer effective resistance to Dutch rule. After attempting to reconcile the two parties to establish one united nationalist front, Sukarno chose to become the head of Partindo on 28 July 1932. Partindo had maintained its alignment with Sukarno's own strategy of immediate massa agitation, and Sukarno disagreed with Hatta's long-term cadre-based struggle. Hatta himself believed Indonesian independence would not occur within his lifetime, while Sukarno believed Hatta's strategy ignored of the fact that politics can only make real changes through formation and utilization of force. During this period, to support himself and the party financially, Sukarno returned to architecture, opening the Bureau of Sukarno and Rusano. He also wrote articles for the party's newspaper, Pikiran Rakyat. While based in Bandung, Sukarno traveled extensively throughout Java to establish contacts with other nationalists. His activities attracted further attention by the Dutch PID. In mid-1933, Sukarno published a series of writings titled Mencapai Indonesia Merdeka. For this writing, he was arrested by Dutch police while visiting fellow nationalist Muhammad Hosni Thamrin in Jakarta on 1 August 1933. This time, to prevent providing Sukarno with a platform to make political speeches, the hardline Governor-General Jonkir Bonifacius Cornelis de Jong utilized his emergency powers to send Sukarno to internal exile without trial. In 1934, Sukarno was shipped, along with his family, to the remote town of Enda, on the island of Flores. During his time in Flores, he utilized his limited freedom of movement to establish a children's theater. Among its members was future politician Frans Ceder. Due to an outbreak of malaria in Flores, the Dutch authorities decided to move Sukarno and his family to Bengkulu on western coast of Sumatra. In February 1938, in Bengkulu, Sukarno became acquainted with Hasanuddin, the local head of Muhammadiyah organization, and he was allowed to teach religious teachings at a local school owned by the Muhammadiyah. One of his students was 15-year-old Fatmawati, daughter of Hasanuddin. He became romantically involved with Fatmawati, which he justified by stating the inability of Ingikarnasi to produce children during their almost 20-year marriage. Sukarno was still in Bengkulu exile when the Japanese invaded the archipelago in 1942.